But for those of you who don't know me, I'm one of the field sales directors. Basically, that means I'm your wholesaler, product expert, illustration expert, things like that. If you don't know me, though, it's probably because your agency drew the long straw when we were doling these out, and you worked with Mr. Brian Bull, who Brian didn't have a chance to be on stage this week, but I just wanted to acknowledge him. If you want to give him a wave or stand up. If I don't work with you, Brian Bull works with you, and you're a great man for Brian. But really, it's my pleasure to be up here because my partner here was willing to share the stage with me, and we put together a presentation for you. This is Jason Fagan. Jason's originally from Champaign, Illinois.
No.
No, not originally?
No, I'm from Florida.
Oh, you're
I was
from
displaced for 11 years. Painful.
Story on that. I first knew him from being from Champaign, Illinois. Now hailing from Florida, he's the founder of Fagan Financial Group. He is my friend and a fellow bourbon enthusiast, Jason Fagan.
Last year I had the privilege of sharing how I grow my practice, and I do something called an advisory council, where I do 4 quarterly meetings. I ask people that aren't clients to come in and help me grow my practice. I never ask them for their business, I just ask for critique and feedback. 90% of the time they're like, well, why aren't we your clients? Okay, great. I want their referral, I want their good word. I use many different systems in helping explain that, but this is the conversation that I want to have every day. I'm sitting in the back there and I'm like, I just need to speak this continuously. Like, I don't want to do any other meeting but the buffer meeting. That's it. My wife texts me, she's like, you were anointed to do this. I was like, that's true. Like, I'm anointed to have this speech. Like, I just want to have this conversation. Josh can take the reins, he can do all the other stuff. Bring me in for the buffer. Like, if you don't want to hear it, there's the door. So I'm securities licensed. I was with an insurance broker dealer. When I moved to Florida, I went independent. I decided to go independent broker dealer. Love my broker dealer. I'm part of an OSJ group. There's 400 of us. We manage 18 billion of assets. I don't maybe 800,000 I manage, but no. But it's just powerful, right? Like, I love working with life insurance. I'm wherever Clay is, I've got more than I probably make. Like, they probably deny me next time I apply. Fully insured. I believe in it. I believe in overfunded whole life as the buffer. I've had the privilege of sharing this conversation with my OSJ group, and they're just, life insurance is the enemy, like, you only sell it because you get commissions, like, oh, all the stuff. So, but they are turning their ear and they're listening now, like, they believe it. They believe in the safety and stuff. So, how many people in here are securities licensed or want to be? Okay. And then, so not many people, but at the same time, when I talk to market, how many people are in real estate investments in here? You know, equally as many people. So that's the market. We have to have a buffer to the market. So one thing that we will believe, you know, we call them truths, is virtually everybody that you will meet will have market exposure. Mostly stock market because of 401k, IRAs. It's just like when they come into office, guess what? They've got securities. So we bring them over, like, we make them a client, then we educate. Most of the people that we meet think the stock market is the best place to accumulate money over time. And if you look at the average rate of return, it's good, it's great, you know, like, we'll get to that in a minute. Dave Ramsey will tell you, like, you know, your growth mutual fund, 12 to 14%, great, awesome. Many clients believe, like, I can talk about the buffer all day long. As soon as I say life insurance, it's like I'm hunting and the deer's right in front of me. Life insurance? Like, what's that? You know, it's like speaking in tongues to a Baptist. It's like, what? That's the devil. Like, I mean, it just is. It's like, nope, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want life insurance. No buffer. I don't need it. But then, if they don't believe in it and they don't change their tune on it, they miss out on the opportunity of permanent life insurance. So this is life insurance in the market, and I don't take credit for any of these slides. My partner, he has all the pictures. It's awesome. This is what we see. It's this. Let's beat it up. My market friends that just invest in the market hate life insurance. My life insurance friends that don't believe in the market hate the market. No, let's marry the two, right? Let's marry the market and life insurance. The goals of this conversation today are, I want to share, with using Wealth Building Cornerstones, how I marry those two. Art's in the room. Art doesn't know me, I know him. My general agent, when I started in the business, was good friends with Art. This is where I got this presentation from. WBC is so much more than what I'm going to show you today. I use 8 slides. 8 slides that were laminated that my general agent just had in a binder that he would pull out. Now, I got high tech and I put them in a PowerPoint. Works great for Zoom. The laminated onto the camera, not too much. So, Wealth Building Cornerstones is so much more than this, but you can have this conversation with even out Wealth Building Cornerstones.
And my goal today, my purpose for being up on the stage is that I know, as much as Art would love it, not every one of you is going to subscribe to Wealth Building Cornerstones. And so I want you to have some client phrases. If we were in a Tom Love Breakaway League meeting, you might call these powerbomb phrases. Ryan Lee sounds like he calls them sound bites. But I want you to have a few key takeaway phrases that I hope you can use with your clients to talk about some of these concepts that Jason's using.
So this is the presentation that got me to New Zealand. So these trips are amazing. Like, for people who are new to One America or like dipping their toe in the water and seeing like, do I want to write here? It is very much what Mark said yesterday. It is the relationships. You go to a Mass Mutual conference, great. Not as many relationships as here. Like, people become friends and then they become family. And when you get out, like, Indianapolis is awesome, but like New Zealand's a little bit better, you know, like just a little bit. Until you get to 1099 at the end of the year, and you're like, oh. So we'll get to, like, call me in January. But you meet good people, and you get to spend time with your family. Then you got your work family. There's my dad right there. He spoke yesterday, the bald guy. He's my work dad. And then you see some interesting things. Now look at this closely. That is Mark wearing his girlfriend Rochelle's sweater vest. That only covers to here. We put him up to the challenge, and he was not even here to like see it. Like, we had to relive this moment. He was just cold. His upper half was cold, so we took care of it. But the other good things that you see is you get motivated when you go on these trips. Like, it's my goal for everybody in my agency to get on these trips because you meet people and you're more likely to go again. Now, when I qualify for these trips, I just barely make it. Like, don't come into our office in December because people say you don't work in December. If there's a trip involved, I'm on New Year's Eve, like, overnighting stuff, like whatever, the last cutoff day, I'm working, I'm grinding. And then you go on these trips and you meet people like Carson, who's like 20-something years old, and he's on a trip. And I'm like, how is this possible? He's splitting cases with Chris. And I saw Chris at the gym the other morning, and I'm like, why is he smiling? It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I realized that Chris is at the gym, and he's smiling because he's already qualified for 2026 trip. He's written 100 policies before he even came downstairs, and he's on this trip, you know? And then you meet the Taylors, and, you know, like, can we just pause real quick? I met the Taylors. We were online for a ferry, I think, and we were talking. And I'm like, how long have you been doing this? You're new to the business? How many kids you got? We got 3. How many kids you got? 8. 8 kids. Miguel says, I want 10. I'm like, what? Then we find out you homeschool 8 kids. She went to New Zealand homeschooling 8 kids, and she splits her work with Chris. Underachiever all day long. Like, oh my gosh, 8 kids. Like, I would never be home I'd be working for, all the time. Like, I'd probably do as much production as Chris if I had kids. But these trips are just really, really great. You got to get here. So these are this conversation will get you there if you implement it. Market. How do we get down in retirement? We always talk about accumulation, accumulation, accumulation. How do we get down? I've had this conversation with heads of finance at University of Illinois, engineers at NASA. Like, this is what people think. I'm going to pull 14.84%, or I'm getting 14.84% average rate of return from 1970 to 1999. This is what it averaged. If I pull less than 14%, I'm golden. 10% a year, that's what I'm pulling. Sounds good, looks good. Like, wow, in 30 years I pulled 3 million, I got 15 million because of compounding interest.
Math works out, doesn't it?
It's great. I'm doing it, I'm retiring tomorrow. Like, that's awesome. Well, I think it makes sense. Well, let's see what the financial expert says on this. Maybe.
Click one more.
Maybe one more. No.
And it's making, average market returns of 11%, 12%.
No, it's
Why
14.
can you only take out 4%?
Just fear, I think, is the main reason people do it.
Why would the
Inflation.
financial advisor say?
He gets more money? Is that how that works?
Possibly. Or possibly he is a financial planning lemming. You know what a lemming is?
That's an old school word.
These are small rats that run in herds and follow each other over cliffs.
That is the funniest way I've heard to describe financial advisors.
And so it means you go along with the crowd. You go along with the crowd. You go along with the crowd. You don't even ask why. You just go along with the crowd. And so you don't want to be sheeple. So here's the thing. That is a standard thing in financial planning, 4%. Because after inflation and after poor rates of return on the portfolio, you're still going to be okay at 4%. But by God, 5%, they're going to sink it. Which is completely asinine. This is ridiculous. There's obviously, Steve, you are smarter than your financial advisor because you have more money than he does. And you've done a better job than he has. So you can kind of tell him what to do with your money. Be real comfortable doing that. And dude, if you want to pull out 6%, it's okay with me. I think you're going to be okay. If you want to pull out 10%, you're not going to destroy the portfolio.
10%'s fine, right?
It's okay with him.
Yeah, he said so.
He's an entertainer.
He is.
He's not licensed.
Successful
He can do whatever he
entertainer.
wants to say. 10%. Dave said it. I'll do it. He'll be retired when you're running out of money. It'll be okay. All right. So, going back to the conversation. This is what people think. I don't show them Dave Ramsey. No, don't do that. That's for you guys only. I can't stand the guy. These are the real rates of return from 1970 to 1999. Guess what? How many negatives are there? 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives. 4 negatives in 30 years. I'll take 10%. How do you get the average of 14.84? You add up the results and you divide it by the number of periods. If we put those numbers in a hat and everybody pulled them out different, we'd all have a different sum of money in the way that the returns came. Math is not money, and money is not math. All financial professionals and organizations are required to tell you is the average rate of return. I was going to share what Ethan shared yesterday about I can average a 20% rate of return and you can have less money. Like, that doesn't sound good, but it's reality.
And so our first client language takeaway, go back.
It's sticky. There you go.
There we go. And you heard Jason say it, math isn't money and money isn't math. I first heard that phrase from Mr. Don Lang. His name was invoked up here yesterday. I think it was an industry, we owe a lot to him. But I think this is a powerful phrase to use in front of a client because it's signaling to them that they can't think the way they've been thinking, right? It may not be completely accurate. We're still using math. It's the difference between an arithmetic and a geometric mean. But nobody knows what a geometric mean is, right? So when you say a phrase like this to them, it's signaling to them, I need to think in a different way. You're trying to prepare them to think differently. Because using math as they know it, math as they're used to using it, is gonna get you the 14%. And as we're seeing here, that doesn't work in reality. So this is a great phrase to use to signal to them that they're gonna need to think differently and be prepared to hear differently about what you have to say.
So the real rates of return and the way that they fell. One more thing. Oh, if we pull out 10%, $100,000 a year, we run out of money in year 14. How's that possible? Average is 14.84, I pull 10. Because it's negatives. Like, we don't work for 40 years, and guess what? When the market goes down, we're putting into our 401k, and we're buying low. So we get the recovery. In year 3, I get back to $1 million. And in 2 years, I cut my $1 million into 500,000. There is no recovery from that. You cannot recover other than stop making withdrawals and go be a greeter at Walmart. And that happened in the dot-com bubble. People retired early and went back to work because this happened. It's scary. It doesn't work though. You gotta have, the buffer. You can't just pull out that 10%.
A couple other client language phrases here I pull out of what Jason's talking about. One is that average is not actual. We could use that on the last one too, right?
Yeah.
But that's an important phrase. It's short and it's pithy, but it drives the point home that the reality of what's happening with your money is not the average. The average is unimportant. It's required on some illustrations. It might be required in certain instances. I don't know why, because it's not helpful, is it? So write that one down. Average is not actual. But the other thing I love, and I honestly heard this concept for the very first time from Jason preparing for this. I'm sure he couldn't have come up with it on his own. He got it from somewhere, right?
Yeah,
but
from somebody.
Is that when you're in the distribution phase, you're always selling. You have no choice but to sell in the distribution phase. And I think this would resonate with clients because every client, we already established pretty much everyone you talk to is in the market. Every client knows to buy low and sell high. They might not do it, right? They might panic sell when something goes down, but they know the advice. And so when you can say to them, look, what you're doing in the accumulation phase, you've got options, you're buying, you're selling, you're making different decisions. Once you turn on that income stream in retirement, you're always selling, no matter what the market is, even when it's down. I think that would wake them up, cause them to pay attention, and be amenable to the types of things Jason's talking about here.
Going back to distributions, but Dave said if you want to pull out 10%, you're not going to destroy the portfolio.
He would know.
He said it.
Wouldn't he know? He would know.
He would know. I mean, okay, Dave, what is this? This is what financial planners use, Monte Carlo simulation. This is just showing the probability that you will run out of money if you pull 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We talk about the 4% rule. Now you're just hearing, is the 4% rule back? It's really like 3.5 because interest rates were so low for so long. Now, is the 4% rule back? Maybe, I don't know. Like the guy who mentored me, he would use this analogy. And it's going back to storytelling. You go to get on a plane, we're flying out to go to Orlando, go home this afternoon. I had to fly Spirit. I hate Spirit. I had to fly it. It's only direct. Gosh, I get on that Spirit plane. I'm really going to question it now. Like, I asked the pilot, what's the chances we make it to Orlando? It might be a little bit more on Delta or American or what Spirit might be like. And he says, I think there's a 96% chance we're going to make it. I'm flying with Brent. I ain't going on that plane. I mean, seriously, that's a good probability that you're going to make it unless you're on a flight. And they say, I think there's a 96% chance. I don't want to run out of money when I'm 92 years old. I can't take that risk. I can't do it. I won't do that to my kids. So we look at all of these retirement assets, all tied to the market. Every one of these is tied to the market. There's even life insurance on there, just the wrong type of life insurance. Savings account, that's not tied to the market. Yes, it is. Interest rates were 0 for so long. Yeah, we're making money now on money market accounts. Guess what? Then clients complain about that. I owed all my taxes. Really? Well, you're successful. I just don't understand. You have $200,000 in a 5% money market account, but I didn't use it. Well, you earned the interest on it, so now you owe it on taxes. You have to have a non-correlated asset to the market. You have to do it. This slide, sometimes I don't show it to my clients. I show one that takes out that word death benefit, cash value, whole life asset, because I have to gauge where they're at. Eventually they're gonna see this. If I use it early on in the conversation, I'm just talking buffer. If I have $1 million and I tell you that you can only take $35,000 a year off of that, you're looking at me like, I worked that hard to save that much money and I can only live off of ramen noodles for, in retirement. I'm like, well, you're not gonna have any teeth, so like, you just eat the ramen noodles.
Ramen noodles.
Like, it's great, I can take $35,000. Or if I have the same $1 million, and to that point, I need to be able to take 7 to 9% off of my nest egg to live the lifestyle that I want to live in retirement. If I have the same $1 million and I have $750 in the market, and this is where I'll say to them, I don't care where it's at in the market. If you have a business, I'd rather it be in your business. But your business is controlled by the market, by a market. If it's in real estate, great, it's a tangible asset. It's controlled by a market. If it's in cash, hope it's earning interest. Most people, it's in their 401k. It's in the market that way. And I have 25% in a buffer, properly funded life insurance preferably, if they qualify. I can pull 7.5% off of my nest egg instead of 3.5%, because when the market goes down, I pull from the buffer. And we have, with the retirees, a meeting at year end. And we say, how much do we need to pull off of your net worth for income next year? And they say, look, $5,000 a month. Great. This is where people get it wrong too. We work for 40 years on a monthly budget. We get to retirement, the budget goes out the window. They start calling, I need 20,000, I need 30,000, I need 50,000, they run out of money. Don't reinvent the wheel. You have muscle memory. We take $60,000. This year the market's up. We're gonna take $60,000 out of their market investments after tax, so I probably have to pull 80. We put it into their savings account one time. I'm not trying to time the market. One time, we look at it. We help them set up an automatic transfer from savings to checking at $5,000 a month. They're not panicked when the market goes down. The first year or two, I have to remind them why. This next year, the market's down. We take a $60,000 withdrawal from their overfunded whole life insurance contract from One America. We transfer it, and we just take 60. We don't have to take 80 because it's tax-free. Savings account, automatic transfer. Sometimes clients, the only time really when the market goes down when clients get this is they call me and they say, hey, should I take money out of the buffer and buy the market? I'm like, you're smart. I'm not telling them to do that, but if they have that idea, great. It's awesome. It's leverage. The other side of this is, if we do that, we have taken 20 years of withdrawals and we still have $1 million. We've taken $1.5 million out and we still have $932,000 in the buffer. If we just took 7.5% off the nest egg and it was still invested in the market, we still run out of money in year 14. And that is not reality. You say, what do you mean that's not reality? If they don't have the buffer, they're not in the S&P 500 in retirement. They're in some cookie cutter 60-40 portfolio that's never going to get those returns. They don't have permission to be in growth. I want to be in growth. I want my insurance to be my safety net and my buffer and my leverage tool to allow me to give me permission slip to take growth opportunities to get returns, to buy real estate, assets, and if it's in the stock market, I don't want to be in a 60-40 portfolio. One America is my bond manager. They're good at it. I don't need to do it. So if, like, Clients get this. I mean, they really do. Minus you say life insurance. Just talk about the buffer. I mean, this is really powerful.
And so a couple more client takeaway phrases to write down. I love when Jason says, you don't have permission to take the risks that yield those returns. So if you want to get the kind of market returns that you would need to get to take out 10% a year without a buffer, well, you can't do that because you're not able to invest in the risky things that would get you those returns that give you the permission. The only way to get the permission is to have the buffer. And people hate being told they don't have permission to do something, right? They're gonna say, well, how do I get permission? How am I able to do that? And you've got the answer for that, so write that one down. Also, your advisor will just put you in a cookie cutter strategy. People hate being put in a cookie cutter strategy, right? They hate anything these days as Americans that's not individualized. And especially younger folks, like right hand, she's backing me up, especially the younger generation. They want everything to be customized to them. And so to tell someone that you're just gonna be cookie cutter, your financial life is cookie cutter, they're not gonna like that either. So I think that would be a good phrase to use in a meeting with a client to help wake them up and listen to what you have to say.
And then lastly, I end with this slide because it is very powerful. We have to start now. It's time to implement now. We can't postpone this. We relate it to growing trees. You have to lean into this with intentionality and be funding this buffer, especially when you're coming in and you're bringing over assets and we're starting, with nothing in the buffer and we've got all these money in assets and we got to catch up. So we say time is the essence, we're growing. Trees here, compounding interest takes years and years and years to see the fruits of it. And we show them, like, most people want to quit in year 5. Nope, you got to look. You got to start with the end in mind. But when they experience retirement, and when my phone doesn't ring when we have a market correction, that makes me know that I'm doing the right thing. They've got their market. I didn't blow up everything that they thought was true and turned out not to be true. I just showed them how to make it better. And I hope that you guys can take some nuggets from this and better your practices as well.
So then the last phrase, if you want to give one more click, the last client phrase, this is actually one that I've been saying for a long time, is you want to make sure the client understands this is not a check you have to write. This is a check you get to write. Right? I didn't know what Clay was going to talk about today, but I think this dovetails really nicely with what Clay was talking about. If the client sees their life insurance premium as a bill, if it's right there in between the water and the power bill, they're not going to want to write it. Like Ryan mentioned, they're going to come back and ask, why am I doing this again? No, they have to understand this is a check they get to write to protect their family, to protect their own financial future in retirement using something like a buffer.
It's not a bill, and we don't use that at all. We don't use premium in our office. It is a deposit. I got my life insurance bill. Nope, you got your deposit slip. It's not a bill. We're moving money from one asset to the next. It's a deposit. You get to write it, and when they see it that way, and it takes some time just re-educating. Your deposit slip. Oh, I thought you were talking about your term insurance bill. No, you got your deposit slip for your whole life. So, key phrases. Seem simple, but you really have to re-educate the client. Thank you guys so much.